All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pre-Sales Unplugged, the Leadership Playbook. I'm Arvi Karkanji. I'm the founder of Elite Talent, and I mainly work with SaaS companies to hire top-tier pre-sales and post-sales talent. But today is not about me. Today, this show is about leaders building the go-to-market teams, the strategies that actually work in today's market. And I have a very special guest that I'm super excited to announce. But before I do that, really quick, if this is your first time joining us, one quick note. These conversations are live and intentionally unedited. So what you hear here today is real and exactly how it happened. We stream it live, but you can also catch a replay on all major platform podcasts, whether that's an Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever it is that you like to listen. My only ask is if you do enjoy the conversation today, make sure to follow, subscribe, leave us a review, especially for our guest. I personally read every single one of them, and I'll make sure to answer even after the live or tag the guest if needed to make sure that you get those responses. With that being said, I'm super excited today to have Mike Simmons join me today. He's the founder of Catalyst, and he has a really strong record in the space. And I'm super excited because today's going to be a slightly different conversation. We typically go deep technically on like how to do things and what to do in certain cases. But we're going to change the conversation a little bit today with Mike and talk a lot about mindset and building, kind of behind the scenes. So, Mike, thank you so much for joining me, and obviously, being able to come on live with me today.
Sure, and thanks, and everybody. The birds in the background are a function of where I am. I was originally supposed to be home, but we're still out here in Hawaii. So hopefully, this little kind of conversation in nature is helpful and
Yes,
it helps add to the experience.
Oh, for sure. I was going to say, you're bringing us all to Hawaii today with you, and I think we're all jealous, starting with me.
Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah,
absolutely. And Mike, obviously, I want to start with like just having everybody understand a little bit more about yourself. Where your experience. What led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so it's been kind of an interesting journey. I started the first big company I was a part of was United Parcel Service, and that was really more on the operations side of things. You're running an air operations. If anybody has ever seen the movie Castaway, the first couple of minutes of that movie shows what it's like in that type of an operation, even though that was Federal Express. But that's where I started my career. And partly because I like to work hard. I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do. I knew I didn't want to get into sales. My dad was in sales. I saw that in our house. There were some different things that I experienced around the house that were different from what I saw him with his team. And I just I did not have a good view on what sales was. And then after a while, they had opened up a sales role at UPS, new logistics role. And I interviewed for it and was denied the role because I didn't have the personality profile or someone who would be successful in the role. Well, fast forward to today, I've been running a consulting business where that started as the company Catalyst Sale, where I ultimately help teams build their go-to-market motions, specifically from a client demand acquisition, retention, and expansion perspective. And there's a lot of stuff that's happened in the middle to help get me here, which includes time as an enterprise sales rep working with some of the largest accounts that many of us know and recognize, including companies like the Walt Disney Company and Lockheed Martin and General Dynamics and Microsoft. So just an interesting arc across, and I'm happy to get into more detail around individual stepping stones in between, which included time in customer success before it was called customer success. So I think it's given me an opportunity to have a very well-rounded perspective of the business and people and how they operate inside the business. And when people talk about business acumen, I think a lot of times they use the words, but they don't necessarily know exactly what those mean. And one great way to get build business acumen is to operate in multiple functions inside a business. So that's a little bit of the arc, and happy to go deeper.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you just explaining it overall. I was gonna say, I mean, honestly, I grew up with the same mentality that sales is not good. It's
Yeah,
sleazy. It's,
yeah,
it's people trying to rob you off of things. Don't trust salespeople, and it's kind of crazy once you get into the world and you realize, okay, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, are there people that do that? Of course, but you can choose to not be that person and do it the right way, the ethical way. And I think now probably there's obviously a lot more information than when I grew up, or when you grew up too, of like
yeah,
understanding the salespeople. But yeah, I grew up with the same mentality. And actually, a fun fact is, which I regret it now, but at the time, obviously, I didn't know. But I was offered a sales job right out of college, and my mom actually changed my mind. She was like, "No, you don't want to do sales. That's
yeah,
sleazy. That's not for you." And I
yeah.
was like, "Yeah, you're right." And then obviously now, I wish I would have done it back then.
Well, and it's one of the funny things, like when I'm speaking at events, and the focus is on sales, like helping people think differently about this profession and how they work with customers
Yeah.
and what we functionally do. One of the questions I'll ask, and I'll ask everybody to raise their hand. I'll say, "Tell me, raise your hand. Tell me who likes to be sold to."
Yeah.
And everybody, it's just people not shaking their head no. It's quiet. There's this tension, and people push back. And I let that sit for a little bit, and I asked this question. I said, "Okay, well, how many people like to buy things?"
Hmm.
And that's the reaction
Yeah.
you get. Is everybody starts
Yeah.
nodding, and they laugh and they smile, and there's this kind of shift in energy and the
Yeah.
transformation that happens in the room. And you say, "Okay, so let's just get this straight. You like to buy things, but you don't like to be sold to.
Hmm.
Why?" And it, depending on who the audience is, I'll either ask the follow-up question, why do we not like to be sold to? Or why do we like to buy things, depending on their background.
The
and
background, yeah.
and that will help kind of move this to the next point, which is, look, when people are selling things to us or feel like we're being sold to, a lot of times it's about them, not about us. When we buy things, it's about us. We want to solve a problem. And my definition of sales is very simple. It's problem solving at its core. It's about connecting the dots between a
Yep.
problem that is known or unknown, and some problems are unknown. So there needs to be an experience that helps them become known, and solutions that are known or unknown. And many solutions are unknown until you start going and looking. And this is where a sales professional, someone who operates in this in a professional manner, can help you understand the perspective around the problem, not just a symptom, the real problem that's happening, the root cause analysis, that kind of stuff, and can help you see a vision of the future where you actually can solve for that problem and move on to the things that you need to get done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, so now we get to play a really important role, which is a role of guide. We're helping
Yeah.
people overcome their challenges. So so for me, sales is problem solving at its core.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I agree. Once I learned it, it was a mindset shift of like you're helping get somebody to where they're actually were already looking to go. You just trying to find if you have the right solution or not. So
Right.
I love that perspective. I wanted to ask now, I mean, you've worked with companies ranging from early stage founders that maybe have never sold a thing in their life to all the way up to, big companies like you mentioned, Walt Disney and Microsoft.
Yeah.
Can you tell me some insights that you've pulled from operating across both ends, of that spectrum when it comes to just as a founder plus sales, of course?
Well, and I think this kind of connects back to that experience and just kind of being able to make that transition from UPS and then into a much smaller company, which was a company called SmartForce EdTech, or so emerging technology, enablement technology, emerging technology that helps humans do what humans
Yeah.
do want to do or need to do better, and then keep going into smaller organizations. And what you find inside larger organizations, it's really easy to hide. The
Mm,
other thing that because there's just so much that's going on now,
yeah.
in addition to being easy to hide, it's also easy to be overlooked. So you can hide and you can be overlooked inside those organizations. Well, when you're potentially being overlooked, one of the best ways to help shine a bigger light on you is to help work people inside the organization solve business problems that are getting in the way of the growth of their business, getting in the way of creating risk relative to potential loss in their business. So are we growing, or are we trying to
Yeah.
stabilize and help reduce risk inside the business? What's their perspective of risk? Well, as you go into those large organizations, what you find out is a number of people inside those companies don't know what other people inside the same company are doing. And they're not aware that
Yeah.
there's somebody just like them trying to solve the same kind of thing in another group, and they don't talk with each other. Well, when you're helping
Yeah.
solve a similar problem and you start to know each of those people, you can do what some people out there will talk about as multi-threading, but I don't think they really explain to people or help people really connect the dots between what is multi-threading
Yeah.
versus just pitching 8 different people inside the same organization. No, you're actually threading that together. You're threading the needle through the problems that exist inside the business and how those
Mhm.
connect across the company. So in large companies, you can hide, you can get overlooked. They still run into the same types of problems. People have goals that they need to accomplish. People have others that they report to. People have people on their teams. So functionally, they operate the same. It's in the interaction that you have with people. It's the scale at which you can make impact inside of those large
Yeah.
companies that's a little bit different than what you can do inside the small company. Now, inside the small company, typically you are going to be more of a generalist, and you might do a little bit of everything. Kind of like you, as you run your business, you do a little
Yeah.
bit of everything. You're like a short order cook. You're just kind of going from different things to different things to different things. In the larger companies, you're much more specialized because your roles end up being much more defined. And that's why large companies aren't a good place for me. I went from UPS, a couple 100,000 people, to SmartForce, which was 1,200 people, and then quickly became 900 people. There was a layoff that had
Yeah.
force that happened right after. To O'Reilly Media, the Safari Books Online group, where I was employee number 57 on that team, to launching this business and working with companies that span that group that we just discussed. But so there are similarities in the way that people interact with people. There are
Yeah.
differences, though, in the way that in small companies, you're going to be more of a generalist. In larger companies, you're going to be more specialized. In large companies, you're going to have to do more to shine light on you. In with small companies, there's not really any place to hide. And if you
Yeah.
perform well, then you'll get the credit, but somebody else isn't going to take the credit from you. But I think the key piece for folks to take away, regardless of the size of organization that you're operating in and playing with, is at the core, you're still talking about people who are working with
Mhm.
other people who happen to have misaligned goals and objectives. And now you're trying to help them prioritize those things as they work through and see if there's a way that you can actually help them accomplish the thing that they want to accomplish and that they need to accomplish.
Yeah.
Helpful?
For sure. And I wanted to ask, do you feel like there's either certain, like if I'm a candidate and I'm looking for a job, or I'm even trying to decide about whether getting into tech or just a sort of company, do you feel like there's either certain personality traits or experience that, you can figure out where do I belong the best at? And I personally don't think there's a right or wrong answer, like if you don't like small companies, that's fine, right? But like, how do I figure that out as a person?
Yeah, the big thing is ask how much structure do you really need?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror. If you're looking for leadership, start with a mirror.
Yeah.
Like, let's lead ourselves well first. Let's look
Yeah.
in the mirror and say, what do I really need? How much structure do I need? Do I need everything to be fully baked, and where I'm going to go in and I'm going to start pushing the button or moving the lever or turning the dial and doing those things, and things are, and I've got a lot of support, and there's, even though I know some large companies won't have as much support, but I've got the structure of the organization. I mean, the organization, if I fail, the organization is not going to fail. If you need that kind of environment, then working inside a small company where you are one of maybe 50 people or 100 people, one of 50 people, you are 2% of that entire organization. If you're
Yeah.
leading a team of 5 people, you now represent more than 10% of that entire organization. Fast forward into a larger company where there's 5,000 employees, you're leading a group of a team of 5 and a group of 5,000. You're less than 1% of the total operating group inside the business. So what are my needs? Where do I fit?
Yeah.
Because I think there are too many times that we run around trying to stick our square peg into a round hole rather than finding the square holes that are out there that exist out there.
Yeah.
Now, it's also important to test. So when I went backward, when I went into a smaller organization, if I went into that smaller organization and I didn't do well with ambiguity, and this was a large company, it was 1,200 people, didn't do well with ambiguity, didn't do well with some of the lack of structure, the things are changing and all of that kind of stuff, then I probably wouldn't have gone to a smaller company. And if when I went to that smaller company, I didn't do well with all of those things, I probably wouldn't have started my company, which was much smaller than that. So I do think that the fit absolutely matters. You cannot manufacture fit. And in large companies, you're gonna have a little bit more structure there.
Yeah.
Things are gonna be more defined. People have been doing it for a while. So if you need that, then go that direction. If on the other hand, you're like, I just like to build and I like to have, and I like to create and I like to work in ambiguity and I like the idea of things are constantly changing and I can figure these things out. And I like putting together puzzles and working through, board games and playing video games. Like if you like to do all of that kind of stuff, then you might thrive in a smaller environment because you can move really, really fast in that environment.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a really good way of saying it. I guess I would add the word to it is like pressure, right? Like if you like pressure and like you said, if you feel like, if you make one bad move that could impact the entire company versus like you make one bad move and it's like, okay, it's just a mishap, like we can fix it. That's that's also a great indicator. I love that.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to shift a little bit to the mindset aspect. When we talked offline, you said that you had a very specific belief of mindset first, skill set second, and tools third. And you said that also most people do it backwards. Can you walk us through why that order matters that much? How did you even come about it? Obviously just get us in your mind.
So let's lay out a couple of definitions. Mindset, A, B, C, D. If you're at home, taking notes, write A, B, C, D. Attitude is first one, believe, and then clarity of definition. So attitude, belief, clarity of definition. So when it comes to leadership, as an example, my mindset, so attitude, belief, clarity of definition is leaders build leaders. Leadership starts with self. So attitude, leaders build leaders. Belief, leadership starts with self. Definition, leadership is how we move forward. And you can apply that to anything that you're working on. This is not the Carol DeWick stuff on growth mindset or fixed mindset and that kind of stuff. That's really good stuff. This is business application from my perspective. Like, how do you actually apply it practically inside the business? So let's make sure we have clarity around what our attitude is, what our attitudes and beliefs are. Beliefs are going to be different. Attitudes are going to be different depending on who you're working with. Well, then you move into clarity of definition so that we all know that we're working on the same thing, right? If we don't have a clear definition around what is customer success, or what is leadership, or what is revenue, or what is execution, or what is culture, it's going to be really hard for us to then determine, hey, what skills are necessary in order for us to actually go through and execute on delivering that thing. So when it comes to skill set, skills are those things that you do, the specific capabilities that you have. So capability is knowledge and skill. So you know some things, but you can do some things. So skills are the things you can do, which could include communication or problem solving. We talked about that from a sales perspective. Could be design. There's a couple of different skills. We'll get into those a little bit later about the 5 core leadership skills. But there's this, when you know what you're doing and you are aligned on your attitude and belief around it, then you can determine, okay, what are the necessary skills to do it? And then the last one is our tools. Because if you have the right skills, you can use tools to create leverage. And Archimedes said, give me a lever long enough, I can move the world. You can use that leverage to change things, to move things along. But if I give you a tool, or somebody gives me a what would be a good tool that somebody could give me that I would know nothing to do, not be able to do anything with it? Well, a wood router, so like be able to route in wood, do woodworking and that kind of stuff. Like when I was junior high or high school, I took woodworking so I could do some cool things, and I created a clock and I did all of that kind of stuff. But that is not I don't have the skills to leverage a tool in the same way that someone who's a craftsman would be able to leverage their tools. Yet today, the big challenge, actually, let me pause there. So mindset, skill set, tool set, in that order always. Mindset, attitude, belief, clarity, definition, skills necessary to achieve the objective relative to that definition, and then tools that you can use to create leverage using those skills.
Yeah. No, I love all of that. And there's so much AI noise right now. Everybody, I feel like, is rushing to buy the next enablement tool, the next AI tool, and how it's going to replace everybody, and all that stuff, because it can do all of it in one. What do you think are companies like losing right now when they skip that foundation and just go straight into tech?
Yeah, it is one of the problems with skills. And again, operated in emerging and enablement technology, working with learning and development professionals to help get education technology inside their organizations, adopted inside their organizations, and rolled out across organizations. So that was my first kind of entry in emerging and enablement technology. And what we're seeing today in AI and the evolution of the tools, I think is very similar to what we did and experienced back in the 2000s with ed tech, and the way that it kind of flattened access to to content, as an example. So when you think about tools, though, as an executive or as a leader, it's really easy to check the box and say, I bought this can of Element, and we invested in that can of Element, we spent money, we got something tangible, we rolled it out inside the organization, and ultimately it just didn't work because it didn't work, or it was not the right time, or the tool wasn't very good. So it's really easy to check the box, buy the thing, and then blame the thing for not working. Like, you could look in my office, if I'm at home, I could show you 40 different putters that I have. Now, I've got a collection of these things because I like the engineering behind it. For me, my putting challenges are not the tool, it's the skill that the player has. So when you get into it's much easier to authorize buying a tool, to make a choice to buy a tool, to share with your board that you purchased the tool. It is hard to go back in and say, we're going to invest in building the skills of people, when we think or have this perception that because we hired them, they must have already had those skills, and those skills don't need to be developed. Or we think that when we hired them, they were going to go continue to build out their skills, and it doesn't make sense for us to invest in them. They should invest in it themselves. And that is a failure of leadership to not realize that inside organizations. So with the speed, the other thing that's cool about this new emerging and enablement technology, AI, is it can do so much, and it can do so much so fast, and it is evolving so quickly. I think that the mindset, skill set, tool set approach, in that order always, is more important today than it's ever been, because tools are going to change every couple of weeks. There's going to be some new tool thing. And are you going to spend a bunch of time training people how to onboard on this tool? Or are you going to build the skills so that when they see the tool, they know how to use the tool effectively, and work in partnership with the AI tool to achieve much more than they could have achieved if they didn't have access to that resource? It is an emerging and enablement technology. It is not a replacement technology. It is,
it's being sold as that, though, right? Which is crazy.
It's being sold, and it's being implemented, and it's being promoted like that, which is crazy, ridiculous. Throw any other word around it. It will absolutely, by increasing the capacity of people, it
Yeah.
will absolutely create risk that you won't need certain people inside your organization. But given their domain expertise inside your business, there's an opportunity to repurpose or move them into other areas to create more leverage inside the business, as another resource that can do other things. Like you can grow. And what I think is really dangerous, and it happened the other day with Zoom Info. They clipped 20% of their workforce. At least that's what they were saying publicly.
Yeah.
At least that's what the vibe was publicly. You don't cut your way to growth. It just never worked. You can cut your way to demonstrated profit for a short period of time, but you do not cut your way to growth. You continue to invest. So anyhow, I think the risk is people are buying tools and they're trying to use they've got this vision of what the tool can do because someone's telling them, imagine if you will. And what they're really clear on is what is the specific job to be done inside their business? And that's especially with small business owners and these companies between like 50 and 200. If you've not clearly written out the jobs that need to be done in your business, like how you make money, what are the functional things that need to happen in order for you to continue to make money? What are the things that happen in a repetitive manner that impact your ability to find new customers or keep existing customers? If you don't have that stuff written down, then just throwing an AI tool at your business is just going to help you suck at scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I see that on the recruiting side. Definitely a lot of leaders that come to me and they'll say, yeah, we have these AI tools and I need somebody senior to be able to, make sure that they can handle those tools and they know how to use them. And like you said, I mean, the tools are changing like constantly. So it's so hard finding somebody that has that entire tool stack already under their belt and senior at the same time. And, you as a leader, you don't want to manage them because you just wanted to like plug them in there and then move on to whatever the rest of your responsibilities are. And I can see how this gap just keeps getting bigger of like, not investing into your team. So now they have junior people, or so they claim to be junior people that don't know how to use these tools and they're just frustrated and they don't want them on their team anymore. So then, then layoffs start happening and all this craziness. So yeah, it's pretty wild. And I'm glad that you explained that very well. And hopefully this, maybe some leaders are listening to this and really rethinking their way. And I will say at least one thing that I've heard on my end too is like leaders are scared to invest in their people because, what if they leave one day? And the best rebuttal I've ever heard to this one that I use to this day is, but what if they don't and they stay? And then you're dealing with a much bigger problem in your company.
It's one of those things, again, being in that ed tech space where you would use that today it would be a meme. Back then it was just like a comic strip, but it was a comic, but it was basically the CEO and the CFO having a conversation about it. And I think the question that you have to ask in that environment is, what are you building? Like, what are you really building? Like, are you building a business that's going to significantly impact the lives of your family and the lives of others and their families and your customers and the people inside your customers' organization and their families? If that's what you're building, then your approach for the long term is going to be much different. If what you're building is, I want to just flip this thing, so I'm going to go get the cheap paint and throw it up on the wall so that the house looks good, and I'm going to go move some things around and make sure the color is a little bit better, and that's all I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip this thing, then that's a different game that you're playing. And I can tell you, I don't want to be a part of that game. And there are a lot of people who don't want to be a part of that game. But don't tell somebody in the fit process that you're building something different. And then when they come in, they realize, ooh, that's not
what you told me.
Yeah, that's not what we agreed to, which happens.
Yeah, very true. Is there any tips you can give, Kiv? Because I'm thinking kind of on the devil's advocate side, right? Like leaders are like, I understand you, Mike. I know exactly what you're talking about. I really want to do that. How do I bring this to my board? How do I convince my whatever founders, C-levels, or like the actual decision makers that are just pressuring me to invest into AI?
Yeah, I think first drop that word. Forget the word convince, because if you're going to sit there and you're going to try to convince someone to do something, you're back in that category of I'm going to go out and sell people on this whole thing. Like people will feel like they're being sold to. They won't necessarily look at it as this problem solving thing that we've talked about, this act of service, this act of leadership, this act in service of others. So one, let's remove that word. It's nuanced. Let's shift it and use the word compel. How do we compel someone to lean in? How do we compel someone to take action? Well, the best way to have somebody feel compelled to take action is to help them kind of see the gaps that exist. So we have a current challenge. This is our challenge. We have been struggling with X, Y, or Z. As a board, you've said this is what we need to do. So, okay, we're all aligned. We've got this challenge that we need to do. We need to accomplish. Here's what we've been doing today, and here's what we've done in the past. And ultimately, it hasn't solved the challenge. We've not been able to solve for it. So do we agree on that, right? So we understand what we're trying to accomplish. We understand what we've done in the past, why the problem persists. I've got if I had the whiteboard behind me, I would draw up a hexagon. And at the top of the hexagon, I would write what problem are we trying to solve? What challenge are we trying to solve? On one side of the hexagon, I would write the people. So who has it, who's impacted by it, and then who cares about the people who have or impacted by it. The board should care about the people who have the problem or are impacted by the problem. The customers might be impacted by the problem. The people who have the problem are leadership inside the business. So now you've got 3 different perspectives. So it's not just you saying, I think we need to do this, we should do that, or any of those other kinds of things. So what you're doing is you're starting to say, you're painting a picture that provides a view of a perspective that's different than the single perspective of any one of those individuals. So you're helping deliver some information and insight. And then on the why side of it, what we want to understand is, why does that problem persist? Why does the challenge persist? And then why is it important to solve? What's the impact of actually solving the challenge? And I will joke about it and call it my Mary Poppins approach to problem solving, but then you can put like a little umbrella underneath there and say, hey, if we haven't been able to cover those things, then we're not really going to be able to get into the how discussion around how the future might look. And I can share a link with you and we can point people to what that looks like through the whiteboard thing at some point. But so if I gain perspective, then I go in and I show current state versus desired state. Now I get people leaning in and I get people engaged in the conversation. And it's not just my idea where I want to justify an investment of a couple $100,000 here or whatever the thing is. It's, we've all agreed as a team, this is a problem we really need to solve for. What we've been doing in the past hasn't worked. We've got an opportunity to do something a little bit different. And we can either go and keep doing it the same way and hope for different results, or we can make a shift and make a change. Here's the next 2 pieces that people miss on this. Now, the next piece is, when does it need to happen? Like, when do we need to do it by? What's the timeline? Like, do we need to do it tomorrow? And now we've got to spin something up really, really quick, and it might not be very good or be really expensive, whatever that thing is. Or do we have to do it over a certain time period? And then how can we then build out our short-term, medium-term, long-term plan, or what's next, 30, 60, 90, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, to actually go in and start testing. We did this. We started to build these skills. Are we actually seeing change in the business? If not, then maybe the skill thing didn't work and it wasn't for us. But if you didn't try it, you won't know. And if you tried to do it all at once, you probably won't know, because a lot of times leaders suck at change management. They think they communicate everything, and they ultimately don't. And people don't see the design aspect of what that looks like. That's how I would help somebody compel somebody to get engaged in the conversation and potentially invest. And that framework is an account plan framework that I use to sell into companies like the Walt Disney Company, clients that I work with today, people helping their team sell better. It's a problem solving toolkit that started as an account plan tool, and ultimately it works both for internal customers as you're looking to get funding and external customers as you're looking to help them justify funding.
Yeah, that's such an awesome framework, and it's so good. I think the problem that these leaders are facing is like it's not sexy enough to the board, right? You're telling me it's going to take 90 days to see some sort of change minimum, but AI can potentially help us implement this in 2 weeks, according to them. So I do believe, though, that right now the companies that are winning and will continue to win are the ones applying that type of framework. They're not just running away with the times just because there's this sexy new AI tool, or because your board is saying, oh, we just invested in this AI company, you need to implement it in your business. Making like sound-minded decisions. And I know we're moving crazy fast, but I think, and I love your opinion on this, but I think it's okay to still move, not slow, maybe slow is not the right word, but still move, at a steady pace. I don't think that really puts you behind in that sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you think of that?
Yeah. So one of the cool things about that framework that we just talked about, it's not the short term, medium term, long term can be broken out into 3 days, 6 days, 9 days,
Yeah.
3 minutes, 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 3 years, 6 years, 9 years. It's all perspective. It's a matter of how are you going to be able to move through the process, and what feedback loops are you going to use to demonstrate, is one, did we do the work, and two, did the work actually work? On this piece around um, and I had one of those moments where I just got myself distracted.
No, you're good.
What was the specific question around how do you? It's not sexy.
Yeah, we're moving. Like it's companies are moving so fast, but it's okay to move ideally at a steady pace. Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. Thanks for the reminder. So there's a special ops a quote or a phrase that's used. At least I've heard that they use it. I've not operated in that environment. I've been fortunate enough to work with a couple of people who have operated in that environment. One of the phrases they use is slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Mm-hmm.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you've ever gotten yourself into a chaotic situation where you're just running really, really fast to task, but you're not getting anything done, you feel really busy, but you've checked out a bunch of things on your checklist, but you've not actually made progress to your goal, then you understand speed to impact is more important than going fast. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can go fast, but speed to impact is more important than going fast. And my view is you accelerate speed to impact by simplifying, reducing complexity, breaking things down into smaller pieces, identifying next logical steps, and then helping people take those. Everybody wants to go, people like the shiny thing. They like to be able to tell people they bought the shiny thing. They like to be able to show off that they bought the shiny thing. Everybody's using Gong, or everybody's using whatever is out there. It's easy to be able to share with others, oh yeah, my team is using that kind of stuff. And so those are simple things, but the reality is that's presenting a narrative rather than actually demonstrating impact. So you might be able to present the narrative about what all you did or what all you're doing, but is it actually changing the numbers inside your business? And it's, as a senior leader inside the business, it's our obligation to ask those questions of people. Here's the thing: don't do it in a public environment. Like, don't in the board challenge everybody on the board. Like, that's not good. Isolate variables, talk to one person, ask questions. You learn more through the questions you ask, not the answers you give. So you just ask those questions, you will get better answers, and then you'll be able to align with those individuals. You figure out what are people's perspectives. And what you might actually find out is, hey, you're no longer the right fit inside this company anymore because their view is something different. Maybe they're not giving you all of the information. But slow, smooth is fast is a good reminder on that fast is not really everything.
Yeah.
it's cooked up to be. It's let's actually get work done, perform. Performance impact is more important than that.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I guess thank you for validating my thought process there. One thing I wanted to ask earlier, you mentioned that leadership starts with the mirror.
Yeah.
For leaders listening, whether they're at like 50 or 100 or 200 employees,
Yeah.
and maybe their company has hit a wall, like what does that actually mean for them? Do you have any actionable steps that they can look themselves in the mirror and see if they're the problem?
Yeah, and they may be the problem or they may not be the problem. It all depends, right? And some of that's going to be perspective, and some of it's going to be definition of what the specific problem is you're looking to solve for. So you get into that hexagon thing. But if you go through that mindset piece around leadership, leaders build leaders. So if you as a leader are not building the future leaders, then what are you doing? What kind of risk are you creating for your business? Do you think you're just going to go out there and hire some new leader and bring them into the organization and all of a sudden things are going to change immediately? It might happen. I mean, I'm a fan of the New York Jets, lifelong fan of the Jets. They continue to change coaches and quarterbacks. Everything keeps changing inside that. There's a complete lack of leadership inside that organization at the top at an ownership level, yet they continue to try to do the same, repeat the model, which is, we need a new coach. Ooh, we need a new quarterback. Oh, we need a new coach, and just go back and forth. So when you look in the mirror, ask yourself, what can I do today to build up the leadership capabilities across my team? Individual contributors, because if you buy into that view, leaders build leaders, leadership starts with self, and leadership is how we move forward, then you've got a bunch of leaders inside your organization who are leaders of self. How are you helping them build that personal capability inside their functional area, knowledge and skill, so that they have got the opportunity and are motivated to help change things inside the business? So look in that mirror, ask yourself this question: how have I invested in building leadership skills across my team? Not leadership skills of others, but leadership skills of self. If you build strong leaders of self, then the ones who are compelled to do it or called to do it will start to lead other people. And when they get that, the start to feel good about that, they get bitten by the excitement that happens when they see somebody else perform in a way that they may have never performed before or never even thought was possible. Then they get excited about it, and then they're compelled, they want to do that more. And then now they get a chance potentially to lead a team. So you lead self, you lead another, you lead teams, and then you lead teams of teams. And if you build that capability from your front line, people skills, problem solving, decision making, goal setting and execution, design, communication, you build those skills, you will build future leaders in your team. Then you won't have to go out and look for others outside of your business to come in who might present a very good story but don't have the same capabilities that people have inside. You just start it now. So that's how I would help them kind of work through it. What are you doing today to help build the future leaders of tomorrow? If you're not doing that thing today, then we've got to change things up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think leadership is a big problem because people become leaders, I feel like most of the time, right? Not everything is 100%, but the wrong way. It's like, you're a top performer. You know what sounds good? You can be a leader. Why don't you become a manager now? And it's like, well, I don't have any training. I just was a top performer for myself. And it's so different doing it for yourself than telling people to do it for you.
5 more minutes. Thanks. Sorry, I'm getting. I am in.
Are you getting kicked out?
Breaking the law in the area where I found myself in. So again, this is live, like live birds, all kinds of stuff. Security just told me that I am. I asked her if I could have 5 more minutes. So
okay, we'll make it quick. We'll have to do a part 2 for sure.
We'll have to do a part 2. I thank you for dealing with me being in a different environment, and hopefully all of this has
been awesome.
It's worked the way that you wanted it to.
It's been awesome. No, it was just, yeah, we're definitely gonna need to have a part two, but I was just kind of adding more to your point that most leaders become leaders the wrong way. You know,
Yeah,
nobody's teaching them, nobody's training
right.
them. They are just a top performer. Then the company decides that, you know what, you could be a good leader. We'll throw you into it. And if you ask, I feel like most leaders, they'll say that they became a leader because they were thrown into it.
Yeah.
And now they have to figure out this whole other world, you know, in order to become that good leader and push the company forward.
Well, and it's hard. Like you think about, I mean, this happens across families. It happens across businesses. It
Hmm.
happens for people where we repeat a lot of the same cycles. Like if addiction is something that is in your family history, there's you have a higher likelihood that you can be susceptible to these things. And the thing that you've got to ask yourself is, when you're in that role is, yeah, you know, when I hired somebody and they did really good at their job, and I expected that they would be able, it's going to be tough, but they'll figure it out because I figured it out. Are you kidding me? Like, you
Yeah.
know how tough it was. And here's the thing, your
Yeah.
brain has shut out some of the really, really painful stuff. And you didn't figure it out as well as you would have liked to have figured it out as quickly as you want to figure it out. Why not help them? And let's actually help them before you ask them to move into the role or force them to move
Yeah.
into the role, because that's the only upward progression. I mean, there are some people who are really, really, really good leaders of self and will be awesome individual contributors throughout their entire career. And that's where we want them.
Yeah.
Take them and put them in the wrong place inside your business. Now you're hurting one other area of the business and you're going to hurt another area of the business. But if you ask the question, why are you called to lead? Why are you compelled? Why do you want to test? And get an understanding of what their objectives are, then you can help lay out some stepping stones to help them get there, build out a plan. And here's the big one that I think a lot of people miss. When they fail or when things get really hard and they want to quit, they want to give up, and they want to go back into the individual contributor role, create space for that to happen. Remember, they were a high
Mm.
performer in that role. Let's create an opportunity for them to exit. But
Yeah.
before you have them exit backward, work through it and make sure that the exiting is not just tension that's happening because things are hard. It's tension that's happening because it's just not the right fit for them. They tried it. So another one
Yeah.
of my things, and I get, just like pull my string back and I read out my little fortune cookie quotes, but you can't reflect on what you're going to do. You have to
Yeah.
go do it first. So go out there, do the thing, give people a chance to do the thing, and then from there they'll be able to say, do I want to do more of the thing or not? But just because you figured it out on your own, you're self-made, you're whatever you are, doesn't mean that the next person has to go through that same kind of tension. Like, you're a jerk,
Yeah.
you're going to let them go through that. So build the future leader before you need it. Um, there's a quote on networking, a book around this, which is like, build your well before you need to drink. Like,
Wow.
let's
So good.
build it well
Yeah.
first. So let's build that capability. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Mike, I'm going to be transparent here and vulnerable for a second, but I was definitely one of those people before. It's, you know, things have changed now, that I just thought, you know what, exactly like that. If I figured it out, they should be able to. And then, you know, seeing it from this position now, it's obviously like, you're right. Like, we do shut down on our mind, you know, all the pain and all the troubles that you went through. And it is so true. Like, you didn't figure it out as well as you thought you did. So I guess I can attest to that for sure. But
Yeah, same thing.
yeah,
I failed. I had, when I was at UPS, and the first time I had an opportunity to manage individual distributors and some supervisors, I had a leader give me a book, Managing from the Heart, because I was a
yeah,
jerk. Like, they gave me the book to say, hey, you need to figure this out. And I was like, what are you talking about? I know what I'm doing.
yeah,
I'm just a leader. I'm helping us get the operation go through. Like, yeah, I was fortunate to have that leader invest in me at that point in time. I wasn't
right.
ready for that investment.
Yeah,
She was ready to invest in me. And I
yeah,
looked at it, I was like, what? Oh, okay, I'll read the book. And, you know, So anyhow, if you're looking for a cool book, early stage to see, read Managing from the Heart. And it's an acronym.
Yeah.
It's like hear and understand me, something to get to that effect. But anyway, it's maybe
It's a
now I
good
need to
book.
reread it.
Yeah. No, for sure. I appreciate that. And Mike, I don't want to get you arrested or anything. So I think I'm going to have to let you go and we'll have to do a part 2.
I am happy to do a part 2. Is there anything that you wanted to hit on that we didn't, that you want to wrap up in the next minute or so?
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything that you can maybe end in terms of advice of like, if I'm a leader now, just based on what we were talking about, and maybe I'm starting to realize that I can be, or I am the bottleneck.
Yeah.
Besides the book, maybe any 2 to 3 things that you can suggest that they can do to implement it.
Yeah, there's a better book than that one that I would suggest that a leader read. Read The Effective Executive by Peter Drucker. It's a very good book. The foreword to The Effective Executive, which is written by Jim Collins, is really powerful. It lays out a couple of lessons that I apply in the business, which one of them is stop what you would not start. So, if there's ever anything that I'm doing inside the business that I would not start again, I stop it. I eliminate it. I start to outsource it, move it to somebody else because it's not the thing for me. So learn from others, ask better questions like we talked about inside this conversation. Take a look in the mirror and be honest with yourself about what it is that you want, what is it that you need, what is it that you do well that you can't be replaced. There are a lot of leaders who think they're the only one who can do it. Yeah. You're not that special. Like, I mean, you are special, but you're not that special. Like, if you were the only one who could do it, customers would be banging down your door to get whatever that is. So work through that piece. All right, I've got my friend here again. So let's go. We'll wrap this up. Ask better questions, you'll get better answers. And thank you very much for dealing with me getting chased.
Absolutely. Mike, last thing, where do you want people to follow up with you? I know you also have a YouTube channel, so let us know what that looks like, and I want people to go find it.
Hit up the YouTube channel, please. It's the Catalyst Acts YouTube channel. You can find your Catalyst at findmycatalyst.com. And if you want to work with me directly, go to catalystsale.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Bye.